SolarJ here. Do you also want to add chords in your analog rhythm workflow? You're in the right place. Let's go and see how I do it. Here I prepared an Ableton project where I recorded 2 chord loops, one of 4 bars and the other of 8 bars. Most importantly, you need to set a BPM here, and this is gonna have to match on your analog rhythm. Unfortunately, analog rhythm doesn't have a way like Ableton to warp samples and to adapt to the BPM that you set on the machine. So for this technique, you need to decide a BPM in Ableton, record your samples, and then have the same BPM on the analog rhythm. In this case, it's 130. Let's see what we got here. Kind of simple house chords, and then we have more like longer chords, something like this. Whatever. So now we want to export these 2 loops. So first one, I'll export it, and I call it BPM 130, the key. And where is it? This is not long chords actually, this is house chords number 1. And we do the same for the other. I've already done it here, so let's skip this step. Now what you want to do is to go on transfer, connect to your analog rhythm, and go to explore. Here you're gonna see on the left your computer, and here the drive inside the analog rhythm. Let's create now folder chords tutorial, and then we're gonna simply drag and drop what we just did earlier and drop it on the right side of the transfer app. Okay, now that we loaded 2 chord loops of 4 and 8 bars at 130 BPM on the H drive of the analog rhythm, it's time to go on the machine. Okay, now that we loaded the samples into our chords tutorial folder on the rhythm, we can select them both, load to projects, and now we can find them in our sample pool. Let's load them in these 2 pads. So that now here I have the long chords, and here I have the house chords, 4 bars, 8 bars. Okay, so now our loop is this one, and we want to add the chords. One thing we can do, of course, is to add a trigger here. But we have a problem. As you see now, the whole sample is not playing out, because we only have a 1 bar loop. This is 4 beats, 16 sixteenths. So how do we make the chord loop to play completely? So the easiest way to achieve this is by using trig conditions. Basically, we can put a trigger for our chords here on the first one, and then with the trig we can say just play every first time out of 4, because we have a pattern that is 1 bar and the chord loop that is 4 bars. So if we trigger this guy once every 4 bars, it will have the time to play completely. Let's see if this works. Cool, it loops as intended, and we can do the same for this other guy that is 8 bars. So we just go to trigger, put 1 at the beginning, and then put the probability to put the trigger condition to play once every 8 bars. Let's see if it works. great, it loops every 8 bar as intended again. But now let's see some more advanced way to achieve the same thing that allow more flexibility, as in having loops that are even longer than 8 bars. If your chords loop is 4 bars long, like in this case, well, we can simply go up to the maximum of length for a pattern, which is 4 bars. Press yes, and what it has done, it has duplicated this across 4 different bars. So it also duplicated this trigger over here, and you can see that we have 1 per page. But since this guy, we want him to play for 4 bars, we only put a trigger at the beginning. And this should make sure that the whole loop is played out. Okay, and now what about the 8 bar loop? We cannot go farther than 4 bars on the rhythm. There is a workaround, which is to use retriggers. So we can basically make the time 1/2, and for some of the divisions, this would just mean, like the kick, for instance, this will just mean that we have to put 1 extra. Because now what we did, we changed the length of 1 beat to 2 beats. So it's halved, actually. And this is what it sounds like if you add triggers for the kick. The kick will come every beat. But as you can see, let's remove this and add actually this guy. You see that the sequencer is moving half as fast, but the snare, for instance, now will be hit in weird ways. We want it to be on the 2 and the 4, which should be something like this. So we do it for the whole pattern. So that it sounds nice on the 2 and on the 4. And now you might wonder, what about the hi-hat? Why didn't we have to change them? There's a trick here. I used, for all of these triggers, the retrig. You see that I retrig with a rate of 16th, but if I remove the retrigger, like this, for all of this, you will see that it's halved. Because in the page section, the speed is set to 1/2. So, to conclude, we put back the retrigger to a rate of 16. And now we should have finally an 8 bar loop with chords playing on top of a normal beat.